Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to chair this keynote session today. I have the pleasure to introduce again Sy Hassim, who has been fully introduced by all those people whom he has met throughout his trajectory here in Zagora. Talking about trajectory, Sy Hassim is going to deliver a keynote speech entitled A Journey into a Professional Experience Focused on Teachers and Learners Development. Sy Hassim, the floor is yours. You've got 30 minutes to share with us your very rich experience. Thank you.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be amongst you today, and I was really surprised and at the same time very honored to be addressed for this 14th edition, and I didn't expect to be that high, but still it's really satisfactory and shows how people care about the work that you do, though you never expect to be talked to like that. My presentation today is a little bit related to my experience, but I'm not going to talk about my experience really directly, but I'll just try to draw light or shed light on certain lessons that I learned from my experience as a teacher and supervisor, and possibly as a learner, as long as the topic is rethinking or reconsidering students' interests and way of learning and teaching and so on. So this speech is a little bit a kind of professional reflection on a life, educational life, that lasted for about 28 years. I started teaching in 1985. I started as a supervisor in 1995, that is 10 years later. And I've been a supervisor for about 18 years. So it will not be really academic, but the generalizations that I will try to do will be very much related to education rather than the academic side. It's also an opportunity, since we are gathering here teachers and students and different people related to education. It's a kind of linking bridges between the past and the present. And if we don't have a clear idea, a clear vision about our past, it's difficult to consider or to value the things that we have today, and also to build on that for future plans. Well, I share with you a picture these are the points I'm going to talk about. Is it clear? What was the date?
69, the school year 1969,
69-70. How long ago is it? So it's 43? 43. And what was the level at that when the picture was taken? It's written there. It's second year in the primary school. It's the second year in the primary school, and we used to have pictures like this, but it was in black and white. How many students are there? Can you guess? Just guess. You cannot count them from your place. 45.
over 50.
Over 50. 52 students there. I didn't know it until I counted them. And by the way, I am there. I'm there. I'm somewhere. It's difficult to guess who is me. In the middle, right in the middle. A very small person.
Behind the board.
This is just to show you that what we are suffering from now and complaining was not the case in the past. We were not complaining about the large size of the class. We were just happy because we are in school and we are learning. And even the teachers, I don't think they were suffering because they were paying attention to every single student. I still remember 52 students, they pay attention to every single student. And I still remember, I'm telling you this, it's a kind of educational history that you need to know. The three main subjects that we used to have are Arabic, French, and mathematics. These are the three main important subjects, and we had only two books, Arabic and French. Why I'm telling you that the teachers are paying attention to every single student is that accuracy is very much focused at that time. If you don't write well, if you don't write underline, if you have any scratches on your book, you have to repeat it. And each student has to be accurate in his or her handwriting. If you cannot write well, you skip a line. You write in one line, you skip a line, and you write until you become a perfect writer. Handwriting. Then you can write the lines successively without having to skip anyone. Another element that I want to have in mind is that you do not go from one level to the other level if you do not achieve the minimum requirements, 5 out of 10. And the person who decides on that is not the administration, is not the academy, it's the teacher. The teacher is the key element, is the only authority in class. He or she decides decided whether the students should go to the other class or not. And you can stay in the same class for 3 years if you want to, until you achieve the average. These are things that are no more happening. Possibly that's why students at that time were really excellent. I'm not saying that period was excellent, no. I'm just making a comparison. And I'm telling you that this period is far better than that period, but we do not know, and we do not take advantage of it. And we're going to see why. Yes?
Before you move, what about that outstanding figure? Look at the decent teacher.
The teacher?
Primary school teacher.
The teacher?
Yes.
He's a teacher of French. And I am here. This is me. In a nutshell. Okay. So the main lessons that I want to draw from that period is that the human factor is very decisive. It's not the size of the class or the type of books or the mini books you have or type of materials you have in the class. And we didn't have any materials at that time. You have only a copybook and book of French or Arabic. So you are a successful student because you were taught by a specific teacher. Good teachers are very distinctive at that time. There are French teachers who are very famous, and there are Arabic teachers who are very famous, and there are maths teachers who are very famous. Whoever studied with those teachers, they are surely will be successful. So Textbooks don't matter much. The methods, approaches, and techniques were traditional, but all students should achieve the same results. Accuracy is the key element. Success is deserved. It's not a question of planning at the administrative level. It's not decided by external factors. Teaching and learning conditions are standardized, including exams. There is a national exam for the end of primary school that all students take, whether they are in villages or in big cities or wherever. Then there were many reforms. There were many successive reforms. After each reform, there is another reform, and there is another reform, and no reform is satisfactory. So the reforms are arbitrary, and they are political decisions. Whichever government comes with a new reform that says that the previous reform is a failure, and here is another reform that will bring success, and it never brings success. This is why I say national reforms versus personal reforms. So reforms in general come to redress and improve certain nationwide deficiencies and problems. And when a reform comes, it's difficult to feel the change at a national level in a very short time. Even the 10 years reform, we could not feel any positive change. There is a big fallacy that says that a reform can immediately and positively impact our schools. Sometimes whenever there is a reform, all teachers say that we need to see results. You cannot see results nationwide in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. You need a decade to see the results. It's not possible because this is a national change. It's not a change that is taking place in a school or in a classroom. Nationwide impact is very slow. The only reform that can yield immediate or short-term changes is the teachers' reform. We have to have our own reforms. Each year we should have a reform. We know the situation in our classrooms. We know the situation in our schools. We know the relationships inside our schools. So we need to prepare our own reforms. And by the end of the year, we have to measure the change that takes place because of our reforms. If there is no change, then we have to rethink. This is why we have to revisit. Each time we have to revisit things. We have to reconsider the way we are working and prepare another reform. So teachers are entitled to prepare their own reforms, of course. The classroom is like a laboratory. This is how I see things, and these things that I'm expressing here are my own ideas. I'm not taking them from anywhere, but this is what I draw from a certain experience that I had for these 28 years. I always consider that my classrooms are like laboratories. We experiment in different ways in order to get into certain results, and we have to redo the things we do if we feel that there is something wrong going on. So our schools and classrooms and students are the boundaries of our kingdom where we exercise full authority and freedom to make educational reforms happen. If we cannot create our own reforms, then we will be always suffering from the reforms of politicians or policymakers. There is no limit to our reform. It's up to our imagination, to our innovation, to our own creativity. It's another fallacy. Whenever we want to do a certain change, we always aspire to impact the whole community. It's not possible. You can only impact your students, your classrooms, and your school. This is the scope of the reform that you are thinking about. The reform that impacts the whole society is a political decision. It's not a teacher's decision. But your own reform, within the boundaries and the limits of the work you do, you can only implement your own reform. In order to have a nationwide reform, we have to belong to bigger institutions. We have to belong to associations. We have to belong to parties in order to form or to implement certain change that can impact the whole society. Some people can think that as an association, for example, the Moroccan Association of Teachers of English cannot impact the teaching of English in Morocco. It does. The textbooks that are produced, the curricula and syllabuses of English in Morocco are most of them produced by members of the Moroccan Association of Teachers. So if we work together and belong to a strong association, then we can achieve the national change that we aspire to. But as individuals, as teachers, possibly as groups of teachers within the same school, we can impact the school, we can impact the local community and the results of our students, but not at the national level. Another element is the national curriculum versus the personal curriculum. Of course, there is a national curriculum which is standardized, which is implemented in all schools, but we can have our own curriculum, a curriculum that I personally produce. It's part of the reform that I want. If you have a reform, you have very big goals, and in order to make them practical, you turn them into a sort of curriculum with specific goals and with aspects of the work that you want to do, and also actions that you want to take, and then lessons follow and so on. And here, we have to believe that we are not teachers transmitting information to students, we are managers of knowledge. We have to think of ourselves as managers of teaching and learning, because knowledge and information has become available everywhere. So there is a definition of curriculum. Curriculum is the framework that helps us implement religious, ethical, political, and socio-economic values. So the curriculum is something big. It's related to the general reform, to the general society we want to have. The output of education is the citizens that we have in our society. The same thing, and this is why I say education is a field of values par excellence. So if you see that religion, ethics, and socioeconomic values and so on, these are values. And we are entitled to produce positive values. And within the work that we do in classroom, if we do not have our own values, then the work that we do is like the work of a technician. And we are not mere technicians. We are people who exercise certain influence on the personalities of the students. Sometimes the students do not like the subject we teach just because of us. Not because of any other factor. Or the opposite. They love a certain subject because of the way that we teach, because of our attitudes, because of our values that we believe in. But if we believe that the textbook is the syllabus, then we are doomed to have very limited impact, and we are not exercising the rule of education, which is that of values. Learners of today are not learners of the past, neither are teachers of today. So the teacher that you saw in the picture is not me. And I'm not embodying his values or the attitudes he does, because at that time punishment was the key, the key technique for producing accurate learners. And students are good students just because they fear the punishment. And this is not a good thing. So we have our own different values as different teachers. Knowledge and information have become available everywhere, including our pockets. So if you see the smartphones we have today, they contain more than all the textbooks you have here, especially if it's linked to the internet. So we have to stop considering ourselves as distributors of knowledge. We are not distributors of knowledge, we are producers of knowledge. We have to work with our students with clear visions, with clear values, with clear goals towards the production of a new learning. Today's learners are multitasked. They do many things at a time. You cannot limit yourself to the textbook to satisfy them. They need more. They need the internet, they need digital materials, they need interactivity, they need to communicate globally. So teachers of today have to cope with the needs and wants of students of today. Now we are thinking about revisiting students' needs. They have different needs from the ones that we used to have in the past. And this is why I say that our role is that of managers of knowledge, managers of teaching and learning. We do not give ready-made knowledge to students, but we help them to reach that knowledge by their own means, by different techniques and so on. And with this technology, with smartphones, mobile technology, with the internet and so on, we are offered potential possibilities that has never been offered before to the teachers of the past. The things that used to be done by big institutions like the media and big institutions like public houses and big institutions like the cinema and so on can be done by a simple smartphone or by a laptop or just a tablet PC. And still, as teachers, we feel that we are not yet ready to make use of this technology. We still fail to introduce it into our schools. We still fail to cope with our students' skills and knowledge. In order to be able to do that, we have to go beyond the boundaries of our capacities, our competencies. We are not prepared to teach today's learners because we were taught in a different way. And we were taught through textbooks. And we still value textbooks. And you still hear teachers saying, the textbook is bad. Well, if it is bad, throw it away. Nobody will tell you why you do without the textbook. There is a clear syllabus, there is a clear curriculum. And as I said, you can even create your own syllabus or curriculum, if you can. If you cannot, then stick to the textbook. It's the only resource that you have, the only tool that you have. So we have to go beyond the boundaries of the capacities and competencies that we have today. I read somewhere that education is the field of the impossible. When you receive students with limited capacities. And then you exercise certain power as a teacher through the work that you do, and you transform the students. And you see the transformation just within a year. Suppose, for example, you receive students from the 9th grade, they have never heard a word of English. And then by the end, he could make a dialogue, he could write a text, he could send an email. This is an impact that we have on students. So we make the impossible possible through the way that we teach. As teachers, we have also, as I said, go beyond the boundaries of our competencies, and this can only be done through imagination, innovation, and creativity. If you don't have these three elements, then you will stay and remain a mere technician in the classroom. just following the textbook and teaching very limited things. If you cannot go beyond the textbook, beyond the syllabus, beyond the classroom, beyond the school, beyond the country, beyond yourself, then it's difficult to consider yourself as a teacher of today. I take just the two projects that I was involved in, like the Connecting Classrooms and Access, and I still remember at the beginning of the program here in Zagora, there were students who used to be shy, and they feel ashamed of themselves because they are poor. They are just wearing very modest clothes, and they cannot see you in the eyes. But within 3 or 4 months, we had different people in the classroom. And I still remember Mustafa, I think. A boy. Can you hear me? Yeah. A boy who was the youngest of the group, I think. He couldn't even answer the questions. But then, by the end of the first year, I mean in the Festival of Fast, he could face an audience of 200 students with a very skillful competencies of an actor. And he could sit down here and put his foot in the face of the audience without feeling ashamed, while he used to be ashamed just through looking you in the eyes. So the power of education is in fact unlimited. It's limited if we want it to be limited. It's limited if we have a very powerful creativity and imagination. Through those two programs, we managed to have excellent public speakers and skillful actors and gifted painters and wonderful singers and leaders in the making and so on. It's not, these things cannot be learned through the textbooks and cannot be learned through the formal curriculum or syllabus. If you do not have curriculum and syllabus, you cannot transform students positively. And this is the power of education. The same thing for teachers. When you use your imagination, your creativity and so on positively, you go beyond yourself. There are certain competencies that you learn and acquire through your work with your students. And I take my personal experience as textbook writer. In fact, I never dreamed of writing a textbook. Never. But when you work for it and you try to bet yourself and to go beyond the limited competencies you have, you can do it. And here I want to share with you something that I also never dreamt of, and this is why education is something that goes beyond dreams. Even the dreams that we have, you can go beyond them. I never dreamt of myself as being a music composer. I've never played any instrument. I never tried any singing, but I ended up by being a music composer. When I was preparing Atlas English, I had to, it's not a question of choice. I had to prepare the CD with the songs. And I couldn't imagine that. I never imagined that. But I was put in that position. And how did I manage to do that? I managed to do that with my students. So the students here gives you the power that you don't have. So when you indulge into certain work with your students, then you are both transforming yourselves. They transform themselves as personalities in the making, and you are transforming yourself as a teacher. Can you read the song? What do students learn in this song? Civic education, being proud of one's country. And at the same time, there is the linguistic elements. You learn the east, the west, the north, the south, and you learn the mountains. These are geographical features, sea and desert and the rivers. We wrote the song, and we didn't have the music. But with the help of the students, we could make it. I'll play the song for you. And it's for you to judge. There were 40 songs by two baccalaureate students, a girl and a boy, who were the singers, in fact. And we worked together to compose the music just by our voice, and then the music is by the computer. This is why I tell you that we haven't yet managed to use this technology to its potential. We are still lagging behind. And another point is when people were talking here about English, and this is a discourse that we used to hear all the time. Whenever somebody faced teachers of English, he says English is important. It's the global language and of commerce and science, and it's the same discourse repeated. But do we, as teachers of English, embody this value in the work that we do? The English language gives us so many potentials, so many opportunities that we have to be aware of. And this is again something that we learned from Connected Classrooms and Access. Connected Classrooms gave us the opportunity to share projects with schools outside Morocco, in the United States, in Canada, in Indonesia, in Britain, and so on. And our students found themselves that they are able to communicate their own values, their own culture to the others, and at the same time receive knowledge from others. So this is a knowledge that they themselves make. But without the teachers having this value in their syllabuses, I mean personal syllabuses and personal curriculum, it's not possible to happen. This is just a conclusion of the ideas that I was talking about from the beginning. We need a different view of teaching and learning. Teaching and learning, and here the title is rethinking. There is a constant change. And I say reforms always come and go. But what is more important for us is the reform that we want. The reform that we want, we can implement it in our classrooms with our students. And we do not wait for decision makers and politicians to give us the recipe for a reform or for success. different approaches, pedagogies, and methodologies because we have different students and we have different tools. Different teacher-learner relationships. We have to believe in the power and the potential of the students. They can do amazing things. And through the work that they do, we learn. Because those are things that we were not exposed to in the past. And we are learning them via our students. Different curricula and textbooks. If you believe that this textbook is not good, I say throw it. You have a syllabus. It's clear. There is the language, there is the skill, there are the skills and so on. And the textbook is just composed of texts and exercises. Teachers can create exercises and texts themselves. But the texts and exercises that embody their own beliefs and values. Different reforms, different assessment ways and techniques. And this is something we learned again from Connected Classrooms and Access. We are used to paper and pen exams. This is the only tool that we use in our Moroccan formal educational system. We always give marks that are based on that. But assessment is beyond that. It's not limited to that. When you see students performing in front of an audience with certain self-esteem and self-confidence, this is something that shows and proves that there is a progress and there is improvement. All these things should stem from within, now and here. We have been waiting for long for the minister to give us his own view of the reform. We have been waiting for 1 year and a half, and we still haven't got any clear vision. We should not give our destiny to politicians. We are the sole authority that can make change in schools and classrooms, with new textbooks or without new textbooks. We should not wait for change to come from the outside. Change comes from within, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Hassim, for your very insightful keynote speech. You have paved the way for the discussions of tomorrow and after tomorrow papers and workshops. Sir Hassim, many people have been here a few minutes ago, paying tribute to you, talking about the many facets you have. We've just discovered that Sir Hassim is a DJ, something I have never known before. In 1 week. In 1 week. You do it 1 week. It's like those books. There will be no discussion for the keynote speech. Probably we'll have opportunities to meet around at dinner time, lunch time, to discuss the points Sir Hassim have mentioned. But I would just restate some of them. Sir Hassim have made many comparisons today's classroom in comparison to 69, 70 classroom. I wasn't born yet. Textbook versus the syllabus of the curriculum, the reform, the national versus the personal, the power of education. Sir Hassim has also talked briefly, very briefly and modestly about the projects he has been engineering, as Menawi perfectly put it some time ago. Access, connecting classrooms, and so on. Sir Hassim is inviting us to change here and now. Thank you.